presidential campaign seems to be going into uncharted territory. We have never seen anything like this before, so to try and make sense of all of this, we're joined now by Republican strategist John Thomas. He's also president of Thomas Partners.
Also joining us, Democratic strategist Dave Jacobson from Shalman Communications, two of our favourite men, two of our favourite wise men who join us regularly. So welcome.
Thanks for having us.
George W. Bush on the campaign trail, back on the campaign trail, not naming Trump, clearly drawing contrast with him, however. Did he say enough to reinvigorate his brother's campaign, John?
You know, it's not a bad play to bring out President Bush. He's very popular in South Carolina. It's a good move for Jeb. I'm not sure it's going to be enough to get him over the hump, because that state, while the Bushes are very popular, national security is very popular, it is Trump Nation right now in that state. I don't know that it'll be enough. I don't think to overcome Trump. Really what Jeb's doing is vying for a second place, and Ted Cruz might have a strong showing as well.
And George Bush has an 84% approval rating in South Carolina. I just don't know that that translates to Jeb Bush, unfortunately.
Okay, I said 8 years, I meant 7 years. I obviously can't do maths.
Right.
That's the least of my troubles.
Yeah.
Okay, this stuff, you know, Bush lied, people died, essentially what Trump is going on about. This is heresy.
It is.
I mean, this is straight out of Nancy Pelosi's playbook. Even she wouldn't go there. I mean, this is Democratic conspiracy stuff. This is the only reason I could think that Trump might be doing this, and you can tell me this, it's an open primary, and anyone can vote, which means Democrats can vote for Trump. Does that make any sense?
Right. I mean, he's trying to attract the independent vote, and this is a guy with a 20-point lead, right? He's a magnet when it comes to making headlines and media attention. So he's just trying to sort of continue to amplify his message and be that insurgent, anti-establishment candidate. He's exacerbating that sort of narrative with this new attack against the Bush family.
You know, at first blush, you go, what is this guy thinking? 55% of the GOP electorate nationally say they think going to Iraq was the right decision.
Yeah.
But, so you think, okay, he's giving up the veteran contingency. But remember, Donald Trump is a guy who didn't attend one of the major debates so he could go raise money for vets. He's holding big rallies on battleships. This guy, vets love him, and I don't think he's going to lose him over this one state.
Taking on GOP orthodoxy and challenging George W. Bush's record so directly, surely it must carry some risks, though, for Trump down the line, if it was indeed to become the nominee.
It does, but he's not running as an establishment anything. So the further he can run from the establishment, I think the better off he is. It was a bold move last night. We're talking about it today.
Right.
And quite frankly, voters aren't voting for Donald Trump because of his stance on the issues. I know that sounds crazy. They're voting for Donald Trump because he tells it like it is, and he isn't beholden to the establishment.
You know, the funny thing is, looking at that campaign in South Carolina a few hours ago, I kept thinking, make America Bush again. And they all were. Laura Bush was up there, George W. Bush. And I've got to say, you know, for Jeb Bush, he had a really good campaign rally. He was energized.
1,000 people there.
Lost his glasses.
He lost his glasses. Let's listen to what he had to say, or at least some of it.
The only way a Republican and a conservative wins is by campaigning with their arms wide open, with a hopeful, optimistic message, campaigning in every nook and cranny of this country, making sure that everybody knows that we want them on our team. The only way we win is to do what Republicans, when they win, always do. Campaign like George W. did. Campaign like Ronald Reagan did. We have to get back to that.
Clearly, he's enjoying the fact that his family's behind him. He's got their support. But just because Trump insulted his brother, who remains very popular in South Carolina, doesn't mean that those Trump supporters will rally around him, does it?
I don't think so. And I think, look, Jeb Bush is doing everything that he can to sort of attach himself to his brother at the hip, right? He's got George Bush has an 84% approval rating. This is a state dominated by veterans, you know, military employees. And so I think he's sort of doing everything that he can to appeal to those voters. I just don't know that it's going to be enough. It's kind of too little too late at this point.
Doesn't it make him weak, the fact that he has to bring out his family to kind of give him
that? To get invigorated. You know, it's bizarre. Because Jeb Bush campaign is they're like a drunk campaign in the sense of they launched with the word Jeb as his campaign logo, excluding the Bush last name because the GOP electorate is so scared of running a Bush, third term. And now he's bringing back the Bush. He's ditching the Jeb and he's going with the Bush. This campaign is just trying whatever it can to grasp at straws. Quite frankly, it's difficult for Bush. He's got to have a very good showing in South Carolina. I don't think we're going to see him drop out no matter what happens. But it's all of these establishment candidates that are going to keep going, that are essentially handing the nomination to Donald Trump.
The one thing I will say was Jeb Bush probably had his best debate performance last Saturday, right? He had his most forceful performance. And had he done this earlier in every single consecutive debate, he might be in a different position than he is right now.
He is trying to make the line, which I do think that it is resonating more as you see Cruz almost come late to the game of taking on Trump, of saying, I've been taking him on the whole time, where were you guys? I mean, I wonder whether that counts for anything, though, with the voters.
I mean, I think the problem is every time Jeb makes an exchange with Donald Trump, I think Donald Trump wins most of those exchanges. Although Jeb's trying to be the anti-Trump guy, if you're going to go up against Trump, you better damn well win. And a lot of those, I mean, Trump just out-yells him and says, you're a liar, you're a wimp, you're bringing out your mommy, you know?
You just can't win.
What was interesting, though, is that Ted Cruz was given the opportunity to defend George W. Bush, and he really didn't go there. Marco Rubio did, got a lot of cheers for that, but we now have this feud which is going between Ted Cruz and Donald Trump, and we now have some of the sharpest attacks from Trump which are being directed towards Ted Cruz.
I haven't been doing this long. I've been in it since June 16th, but I will tell you, I have never, ever met a person that lies more than Ted Cruz.
Truth matters. And we are not in grade school where you just get to say liar, liar, pants on fire and not respond to the subject.
So what happened here? I mean, these two on the stage, Cruz wouldn't take him on, and all of a sudden he's like, bring it? What's going on?
You know, Cruz doesn't seem to be great at these debates when he's right, you know, the heat is on. Afterward, you notice his logo on screen was Trust Ted, right? His whole campaign essence is that he is the trusted conservative.
Sorry, but did you see what Trump did? It cannot be,
Yes.
or can't be Trust Ted.
I mean, I think Donald Trump's right. He knows that Ted Cruz is his #1 opponent in South Carolina, especially going after the evangelical vote. He's right to attack Cruz. And it's really fun to watch these back and forths, but Ted Cruz has to be consistent when he attacks. He can't just show up one day and attack and not the other.
Back down.
And I think the other thing that Ted Cruz is sort of trying to pull from the Iowa playbook is he's going on the attack really with sharp attacks against Donald Trump. Why? Because it worked in Iowa, and it got him in first place, it got Donald Trump in second place.
Okay, we now have Trump, which is threatening legal action. And this is kind of a little convoluted, but basically Trump is saying, take down those nasty ads, stop telling lies about me, you dirty liar. Otherwise, I'm going to sue you because you're not eligible to run because you were born in Canada. Is that where we are with the state of play here?
Yeah, first of all, Donald Trump is known to be litigious. He was incredibly litigious as a real estate developer. So this is right in his playbook. But the fact is, he doesn't care whether he wins this lawsuit. He's winning because we're talking about it and questioning Ted's authenticity and his credibility.
So let me ask you this. Donald Trump also says there's a role for the RNC to play here to get involved. Is there a role for them to play as the rhetoric heats up and this gets nastier?
I think the RNC's actually done a pretty good job of staying neutral in this process. They could have easily trashed Donald Trump. They started at the beginning by putting out memos to all of the candidates of what happens if Trump wins. I think the RNC should play neutral in this entire process.
And I think also what this sort of underscores is the fact that Donald Trump is extremely thin-skinned and really a rambunctious candidate, right? He can't take these hard hits without pivoting and hitting right back.
So you're saying the RNC is neutral. I think a lot of people might disagree with that, saying if you look at that audience for that debate, it was stacked against Donald Trump.
I don't know that
there's a lot going and the tickets were distributed amongst
you're right. So the RNC, I don't know that it was them being biased. It's just that's how they sell tickets. They give them away to donors. But in a strange sense, every time they booed, I thought Donald Trump is loving this. His supporters are loving it. He's running against the establishment, and they are the audience.
the donor class.
Right. Okay, let's get to the Democratic side. Hillary Clinton is trying to stop Bernie Sanders' momentum before the voting begins in the Nevada Caucus later this week. She's trying to make him out to be basically this one-trick pony, this single-issue guy, and she's doing it with a new TV ad.
Attacks on Wall Street, speculation, the disastrous and illegal behavior on Wall Street. The wealthiest people, the top 1.5%. The CEO.
So Dave, to bring you in here, what do you make of this line of attack from Hillary Clinton that, Bernie Sanders is a one-trick pony, if you will, and his trick is Wall Street? Is it a winning strategy for her to go down to galvanize her supporters?
Well, clearly she's seeing the new polling in Nevada that shows her in a dead heat with Bernie Sanders. They're tied at 45 points, and Bernie Sanders is starting to close the gap in South Carolina. Back in November, he was down by 50 points. Now he's cut that lead by half. He's down by 25 points, according to Real Clear Politics. So I think clearly she sees that she's got to figure out a way to sort of hold him accountable to his message, raise questions, raise issues when it comes to his vulnerability. The reality is his message is penetrating all across America. His poll numbers are surging because his message is breaking through. People want change, and he represents the change that voters perceive they need.
Here's the problem the two campaigns have. Bernie Sanders thinks that there is no difference between economic inequality and racial inequality. Democratic minorities think there is a distinct difference, and the candidate must talk about that. Hillary knows it. Hillary is talking about, of course, racial inequality and economic inequality, but the economic inequality argument falls flat because she's living a dual life. She's saying one thing, yet she's a multi-millionaire, and voters know that.
When does Hillary Clinton start talking about the cost of Bernie Sanders' vision here, about the cost of all these promises, a 40% increase in government spending, increasing the government spend of GDP up to 28%, the highest it's been since World War II, not being able to get any of this through Congress? I mean, she kind of touched on it last week, but she's just left it on the table.
Right, well, we definitely saw that sort of line of attack at the debate last week. She didn't follow through, and I think she's largely tried to run a positive campaign, but now that he's sort of creeping up in early states like Nevada that were supposed to be her firewall, right, and we're approaching Super Tuesday where 900 delegates are at stake, I think increasingly you're going to see sort of more of these lines of attack, and you're going to see more ads like that.
They're running a Democratic primary, John. It's not a Republican primary. We're scared of taxes. They are.
Right.
So it's more of a general election argument.
How do you take that down? How do you take it down, you know, face-to-face, point on point, without it seeming as if you're crushing people's dreams and you're being low on the inspiration? You know, it's a hard one.
Yeah, and Bernie's saying, we're going to solve it. Yeah, you're going to pay a little bit more, and he pushes aside, and his base doesn't push back. My base would. His base
Your base definitely would.
Thank you both for being with us.
Thank you.
Oh, we got through a lot. That was great. Okay, and join us...